the previous videos, we mentioned about the architectural drawing, which consists of three main parts that needs to be extensively reviewed by the engineers in the process of designing for the structural part of the building. These include the floor plans, the views, as well as the cross sections. We have demonstrated the informations as given in the respective components of the architectural drawings and highlighted a few important things that needs to be taken into considerations in the process of interpreting the architectural drawing as well as design for the structure. All these drawings are interconnected. You will need to imagine the structures in 3Ds so that your structural design can fit nicely within the building. And this is going to be quite challenging, especially every single plan are presenting the details in 2Ds. And due to the interrelationship between different plans, inaccurate interpretations of certain plans will lead to implications on the others. Therefore, the architectural drawing needs to be studied carefully. Now the question is, how do you imagine it in 3Ds? You know it is important for us to know how it looks in 3D. You will need to assemble the drawings together, something like this, put them side by side so that you can have a good view of the structures and make direct comparisons. I will recommend you to arrange in this manner, where you have the plan view placed at the middle. There will be front view, rear view, right view, and left view putting beside. And when you want to compare the cross section, you put the plan view at the middle. Then you put Y sections to see the sections of Y and XX sections to see the section of X. This is example how it is being done, where you have ground floor plan placed at the middle. You have front view, you have rear view, you have right view, and you have left view. Here is the YY section, and here will be XX section, which in this case we have two cross section here. There will be the second XX section here. The same process goes to the first floor section and then the roof floor, as you have three plans of the building made of double story, which are the ground floor, first floor, and the roof floor. You will need to observe the grid line, putting them in the proper positions so that you can make direct alignment in comparisons between the plans. Same goes to the vertical grid line. From there, you can make direct comparisons. Since this one is the ground floor plan, that means you are looking at this plan here. You can check the alignments of the wall with the side of the building on the plan. This is for you to identify exactly what are the elements as reflected in the plan. How should it look like in the views? Similarly, you're going to imagine how it will look like at the side of the building. Same goes to the others. This is particularly important. For example, you see something like this here in the plan. This one seems to be a wall, which if you compare from the side view here, you realize that this is just a certain height from the platform level. It is not exactly a wall. To cross-check this, you check the alignment, which is exactly the same thing. And also you see the floor level here. The elevations are different. This will be reflected by the differences in terms of the elevations from this side of the building. For example, you have columns here which from the side view it will seem something like this. And then when you see the front view, it will be something like this. That means there are 3 concurrent columns with a high aspect ratios of length versus the width. When it is arranged, the side will look something like this, the front will look something like this. And if you look at the cross sections of the building, you see something like this. The levels are different. You can make direct alignment here. Then you realize that there is a raise to the front door, which there are 3 footsteps here as reflected here. This will be helpful for you in the design of your building, especially when you deal with continuous window, something like this. Sometimes it's not clearly reflected on the plan. When you see especially this kind of continuous window, that means you need to be careful with the beam at the first floor later, so that it does not clash into the window. Most likely you need to allocate an offset beam to give way to the windows, so that there is no interruptions of the windows. If we zoom into that particular window, you will see something like this, which if you compare side by side, you know that this is a continuous wall as a part of the architecture thing. You will need to consider this. Now it is up to you to decide whether you want it to be a reinforced element or just a stack of brick, which you need to ensure the stability of this part. There is no right or wrong in terms of whether you want to make it reinforced or you just use brick walls. However, the important part will be you will need to make sure this entire thing needs to be stable. If you have no confidence in terms of the stability of the brick wall, probably you just provide reinforcement bar as reinforced members to ensure this in one piece. This is the first floor plan. We are referring to this part. If we zoom into this section here, you will see there is a window here. That means when you need to design your beam later, you will need to have your beam slightly offset from the windows so that it doesn't clash into the window. When it clash into the window, you cannot ensure the windows is continuous. That is the main thing. And also sometimes when you see the first floor plan, you see something like this outside of the room. Now at least you have something like this and you have something like this. This seems to be quite confusing, especially when you only refers to the plant. What you can do here is you refers to the first floor plan here, and then you draw a horizontal line on the plan here. You will know that this one is actually meant for this, and this smaller one, if you draw a horizontal line, it is meant for this. If you find difficulty to imagine this, you might need to look at it in the front view. This is a part of the architectural design, which later when you design the beam, you need to ensure this part and this part are attached to your beam. That means the perimeter beam here, which is referring to this part and this part, there will be a special design. It shouldn't be a typical square and rectangular section. It needs to come together with the architectural thing. Also, you need to check whether there is a continuous window for you to decide whether you're going to put the beam below the windows, or you need to give an offset distance from the window, not to clash into the windows. In fact, there are many modes that you require comparison, which you need to read more than one plan concurrently, especially when you need to propose the key plan, as well as you need to consider the positions of the columns, which may clash into some building elements and affect the aesthetical view of the building. The principles applies. With that said, you have an idea how you're going to read the architecture drawing, and you know the importance of reading the drawings in 3D, that you have a better imaginations how the building should look like, and you have less possibility of errors or mistakes, especially on those details part that can compromise the aesthetic view of the buildings. It is our obligations to meet the requirements of the architects. They have their own design, and there are always solutions for us to overcome the design. We need to be creative in terms of the solutions, instead of always asking them to change the design. As when you deal with the constructions, it is combinations of several professions have their own considerations on the technical aspects. We should respect each other, because whichever amendment made, it will lead to the other considerations. Unless it is clearly mistake done by the architect, which you can discuss and seek clarifications from the architect. If it is properly designed, by all means we will need to meet their requirements. Unless it is technically not viable, then we try to sort out with the architects.